FreeBSD reviews, tutorials and gaming.
GhostBSD 18.10 starts up on a pretty standard Mate or Mate desktop. There's no unusual flourishes about it. It has for those who really care about these things, it has a nice, I suppose, pretty desktop wallpaper. There are 3 icons on the screen, the usual computer, home and trash. And the installed applications, there's not a great deal, but there's enough to get you going, and we'll have a look at them. I have a particular, well, I'm going to say strange relationship with GhostBSD, but me and GhostBSD, we don't really get along. I've tried on numerous occasions to install it on both physical hardware and virtual, and every time there's been something. It's either been a resource hog on my main PC, or it's not booted at all on the real hardware on the other PC. So my reviews of GhostBSD are few and far between. But on this occasion, 18.10 is I managed to get it going, and I think it's because they changed the back end to using TrueOS or TrueOS, and that's one particular spin of FreeBSD which I've always had success in installing. So I think the change in back end from a FreeBSD release to a TrueOS base, I think for GhostBSD has made the difference, but we'll see. I've heard on many Linux YouTube web pages that GhostBSD is the best BSD you can install and use. Now, I'm a great advocate of using vanilla FreeBSD. I think once you learn how to install that and get up and going, I think it's like cooking. It's a set of skills which will stay with you and do you well. And in a way, I view GhostBSD as almost like, I don't know, TV dinner, one that you put in a microwave. You know, yeah, it'll give you a nice taste and it'll probably fill you up, but ultimately you've learnt nothing from it. So I'll try not to go into this review with any kind of bias, but there is some hesitation and resistance on my part because of the bad experience I've had with GhostBSD and the fact that it's often touted by Linux review sites as the most fantastic BSD they've ever experienced, having previously given up on FreeBSD, TrueOS and NomadBSD because it's too hard to install. Because I'm used to using vanilla FreeBSD and installing any applications that I wish to have on the system myself, I kind of avoid or I roll my eyes when it comes to people advocating, oh, fantastic wallpapers and it's got this installed and that installed. But in this instance, I will use as a basis what they've already put on the system and then show you how to install something else. I'm not going to wax lyrical about the wallpapers because to me that's the least important part of any Linux or FreeBSD based operating system, but we'll see how it goes. My early impressions of GhostBSD is of it could very well pass for being a Linux distribution. It looks like a Linux distribution, and I think that's part of the problem is when a Linux user tries GhostBSD, it will look like a Linux distribution, but it does not act like a Linux distribution. There are a few inconsistencies and a few quirks about FreeBSD and BSD in general, which doesn't apply to Linux. And so when a Linux user tries it out, they can be severely disappointed that it doesn't do what they want or expect it to do. For instance, there's no Steam on FreeBSD. There are videos where people have got it working in a virtual sense or on TrueOS, either using Wine or Linux ABIs, but not natively on FreeBSD. And so a typical, if ever such a thing exists, a typical Linux user who wants to try something else will load up GhostBSD and be shocked that the printer support perhaps isn't what they expect, or Steam support isn't on there, or maybe some of their favourite applications is no longer to be found on there. And again, they can come away with a negative impression. Okay, that's enough of my little rant. We'll get on to the install applications. You get 7 main categories on the applications. You get accessories, education, graphics, internet, Office, Sound and Video and System Tools. Under Accessories, then you get Places. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory. And System. On the Accessories, you get Character Map, Ngrampa Archive Manager, GVim. I think one or two of these things I've installed myself, I can't remember. Mate, the calculator, the font viewer, the search tool, Plank, Pluma, Root, Terminal, Screenshot, Vim and XFburn. LibreOffice Math. There's not much in the education part. Graphics, you get Eye of Mate, LibreOffice Draw, Mate Color Selection, which is just a color picker really. Shotwell. Then you get obviously the browser, Firefox, GhostBSD IRC, HexChat, Pidgin, Thunderbird and Transmission. Office, you get Atrill, and then you get the LibreOffice Suite, and then Mate Dictionary. There's a slight repetition in entries there. Oh, updates available, that's nice. So you've got LibreOffice Maths there and LibreOffice Maths there. That's okay. Then you get Cheese, Exhale, Non-Player, M-Player, Pulse Audio, Sound and XFburn. System Utils, you get Kaja, Cups, Dconf, GhostBSD Bugs, interesting. G-Smart Control, Log File Viewer, Mate Desktop Usage Analyzer. System Monitor, Terminal, OctoPKG, Power Statistics and Xterm. Places, you get Home, Desktop, Computer, Network, Connect to Server and Search Tool. System, you get Preferences, Administration, Control Center, About, Lock Screen, Log Out and Shut Down. The Preferences lets you change hardware displays and you change your monitor size and resolution. Keyboard shortcuts, mouse, power management and sound. The Internet lets you change the proxy settings. Look and feel will appeal to some people, where you can change your appearance, your main menu, pop-up notifications, screensaver, station tweak and Windows. In fact, I'm going to turn the screensaver off because that's keeps kicking in. Activate screensaver and there you go. Power management. Set to never. There you go. So yeah, where was we? Administration. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. About assistive technology, file management, preferred applications and startup applications. Now that's pretty much standard. That's everything that you expect. There's nothing remarkable about it. You get 4 virtual desktops already set up, although you can obviously you can set some more up yourself if that's what you want to do. You know, if you want a fair view going. And you can change it to 2 rows or 1 row, you know, whichever, you know, it's standard things. As you saw earlier, the update notification popped up, so that shows you that it automatically is set to notify you and check in the background. And the updates that are available are quite a wide range. So what we'll do is I'll install all the updates and then possibly restart the recording again after the updates have installed. Right, so my early impressions are that it looks like a Linux distribution. Now I understand that they're going for the user-friendly approach, and that's fine. You know, there is room for a user-friendly FreeBSD based operating system. Whether or not it works fully, we'll see. We'll test that in a bit, and whether or not it passes the test, we'll see. Onto the system settings. Do we get a... well, I'll look at the control center. It's basically the administrative center for GhostBSD, as it is in most Mate distributions in Linux. I think there's significantly less available than most Linux distributions. but I haven't used a Linux distribution for quite some time, so maybe it's pretty standard. The update station is what pops up to tell you in the background that there are updates available. Like I say, you can change the displays, keyboard shortcuts for those who want the multimedia applications directly from the keyboard, mouse. These are all pretty explanatory. Power management, as you saw earlier when I was switching off on the screensaver. Change your sound settings, network proxy, and the appearance. Change wallpaper. I mean, I don't bother with any of this, but change wallpaper, your theming. So we'll keep background. You know, you get the usual default. Change your fonts. We'll change that one now. Makes no difference really, but we'll change LCD. I prefer as it was before. Ooh, that doesn't look good. Best shapes, best contrast. Okay. So you got them. And your station tweak. Let's have a look. That's just basically a very limited version of Ubuntu tweak that you can get. It just lets you change panel and text and just what icons appear on the screen. And the rest, I don't need to look in. Preferred applications. Yeah. And startup applications. Yeah, it's pretty standard. The software management in GhostBSD is taken care of by OctoPKG. I mean, the underlying package management is PKG. You could also use ports if you wish, but I think it's really set up for PKG, and OctoPKG is the preferred graphical method that GhostBSD uses. So, say for instance, under education, it's only got LibreOffice Maths installed. OctoPKG, type in your admin password, and it's refreshing the database when you first start it up. Okay, that's not too bad. I've shown you OctoPKG before in a previous video, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but it uses the standard. Anyone's used to Octopi, then used to OctoPKG, is exactly the same. It's just a different underlying architecture. But I don't know. Let's have a look. What have we got? Info files. Okay. I'm looking for a list, but maybe that'll come in a minute. There we go. Right. A lot of FreeBSD files, that's interesting. FreeBSD 12. See, as graphical package managers go, I don't think you can beat Synaptic. I think it's an excellent tool and something which, if I ever find myself on a Linux box, that's what I would use. It's what I've used in the past when I've been on a Linux box, and this is what I'll use all the time. I do prefer Synaptic. I find it very reliable and very easy to use and navigate. Octo PKG. Well, I have used it on TrueOS and I've used it on NomadBSD, and I have dabbled with it on FreeBSD, although I do prefer the command line way of package search. But this, I don't know. It seems not seeming to be very implemented very well. Yeah, I'm not particularly keen on this. I think, I'm not keen on this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the old-fashioned way of doing it. Or PKG search. Alright. It's not the educational one I wanted. Alright, okay. So package search for games. Let's have a look for some educational games. There's not a great big choice, but you know. BSD games, GNOME games. Yes, download and install. So I'm not particularly overjoyed or thrilled by the graphical package manager. It's not something I would use, and the range of available installation software to choose from seems to be very limited. Now I don't know whether that's because it's coming from the base is TrueOS or who knows. There you go. And we'll go to see like if it's installed it. Games, yep. There we are. We got. I know, you know, I prefer it's educational stuff, but there are some educational games in there. Hopefully, if it lets me do it. Yeah. Well, I suppose chess is. Yeah. GNOME 3 doesn't well integrate into the stylization of Mate Desktop, but it gives you an adequate impression. So yeah, it's alright. I'm not too keen on Octo PKG. Not in this implementation anyway. So there's your software management. Let's have a look at documentation and community. Because the FreeBSD has a wonderful handbook which has everything that you ever need to learn about FreeBSD. And the community, although it can be seen as stuffy, I'll have a look at that in a minute. Although FreeBSD forums can sometimes seem unfriendly, they're not really, as long as you remember to frame your question in a coherent way. Right, let's have a look. GhostBSD. We'll go to the main website. Right. Okay. It would be community. Well, this is the forum for GhostBSD. This is the main forum. There doesn't seem to be a massive amount of activity. But, you know, maybe they've just re-brought it back up or something. So we got Telegram, IRC, tips and tricks, general support, and installing. There seems to be a lot of people actually posting about how to install it. General support, okay. We'll have a look at general support. It's a forum. I mean, it's, you know, it's plenty of activity. Recent one is 18th. So that's just yesterday at the time we're recording. Let's have a look. OctoPKG. Average user means I need to go there. That's why I'm trying to open beans. Someone's lacking GKSU. The software, oh yeah, the software repository is broken and we are rebuilding a new one and it should be an update tomorrow, Wednesday. Okay, well they're having some problems. And that was October the 22nd. Yeah, so someone having trouble. I think things are not working 100%. Right, so yeah, so the you have you have a message board, as you would expect. Let's see if there's a FreeBSD, not FreeBSD. Let's see if there's a GhostBSD handbook. Documentation is always important to have. We'll try that on there. Handbook. Right, let's have a look. Well, it seems to be rather incomplete. This handbook is still under heavy development. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, that doesn't help you if you actually need help. Yeah, I'm not too impressed by that. OctoPKG will just take you to a yeah, and that's where it stops. It stops just after installing software. Project goals, let's have a look. The goals of the GhostBSD project are to provide a simple, elegant desktop environment to support your day-to-day computing needs. Easy to use software management program for installing any of the 23,000 available applications. Well, I would think that the 23,000 is an over-optimistic number. I don't think it's 23,000 there. Linux binary compatibility to run almost any GNU or GNU Linux application. Well, again, you see, I think that's over-optimistic. Well-designed and graphical and text-based installation programs. Automatic hardware is video, sound, network devices detection and configuration. A hardened 64-bit BSD system that is unaffected by malware, viruses, spyware, and malfeasance. Oh, okay. Well, I think by nature FreeBSD is an extremely secure operating system, and because it's not Linux, because it has different directory structures and permissions by default, I think it does make it harder for you to get any malware that may be available for Linux. Not that it does much, but if there is any for Linux, then it's not going to be applicable to FreeBSD. OpenZFS to support modern MDA64 systems, and the best user experience possible. Well, you see, that's subjective. The best user experience possible is very subjective. What may be good for you is not good for me, and vice versa. All these things can be said easily, but very hard to actually come across. Now I've got a USB stick which I'm going to plug into GhostBSD, and it's formatted to ext4 on a Linux machine. So say for instance a Linux user wants to come and try GhostBSD, might bring some files with him or her and want to load them up. So I'm gonna minimize that. I'm just gonna plug in the USB stick. It's a USB 3 SanDisk Ultra. It's fairly standard, and I'm gonna plug it in. It never goes in. Certificate to the actress. Right. So I plugged it in, and it didn't detect either USB stick. One formatted in the common ext4 and the other formatted in the common NTFS. So either from the Linux world or the Windows world, it didn't detect a USB stick, which is not good. That's not a good way to be. I didn't expect it to, and I'm not really surprised because with many things in FreeBSD, it's you have to manually do these things. But the fact that GhostBSD touts itself as user-friendly and doesn't do that, again, can lead to confusion and disappointment. I want to give GhostBSD much love, I really do. I think if they came up with a system, which was as user-friendly as Ubuntu or Linux Mint, I think I would still use vanilla FreeBSD, but I would really appreciate the things that they've done. But you see, part of the thing is, having a user-friendly system is not just having pretty wallpapers, icons, and a ready-to-go desktop. FreeBSD can be made to be that, but it takes work and learning. And once you've worked and learnt it, it becomes second nature to you. You can install FreeBSD system and have it running up with a nice desktop, make it lovely, make it nice and pretty. But the underlying things are already working because you know how to do that, you've learned how to do that. And once that's done, it's fantastic. Away you go. It'd be as good as, if not better than, most Linux distributions. But out of the box, it's not. And that's what it's never been like that. You actually, you can make it your own. Hiya, Mayo. You can make it your own, but it takes work and effort. And it's enjoyable, well, at least I think it is. And once you've learnt it, you set yourself up. With GhostBSD, they've attempted to have a ready-made out-of-the-box solution, which, while is lofty in its goals, is a wonderful thing to aim for. But in reality, it can't be. There's too many permutations, different hardwares, different people's peripherals in different ways, in different models, different makes. Hell, there can even be inconsistencies in the same line of webcams, but because the version number differs by one, suddenly one doesn't work and one does. So there are too many unknown elements. And what I think Linux managed to achieve, it managed to achieve a parity, a common baseline, which in general works very well. Same as Windows does that. It works very well. It tries to be as general as it can in its compatibility and its ability with almost everything that you throw at it, and I think that's part of the strength. Although I run a FreeBSD channel, doesn't mean that I don't like Linux. I do like Linux. I think Linux has a very important part to play in the overall computing environment. So does Windows, so does Mac. It's just, FreeBSD is a different beast. It's not something you can just pick up and run with. You have to take the time to do a bit of reading, a bit of research, and learn it. But once it's learned, it's done. GhostBSD, the developers, I think, want to circumvent that. They want to just go straight from someone installing it to be able to use it. And while in general you can get away with that, you will hit snags, you'll hit roadblocks along the way. And because you haven't taken the time to learn it, you won't know how to navigate around. So there, I've tried USB sticks, I've tried a webcam. What else have I tried? Tried to install packages using OctoPKG. I think the forums are, well, they're adequate, they're not over busy. And the handbook, whereas the FreeBSD handbook is exemplary, the GhostBSD is not even finished. So I think that tells you everything you need to know. I've had a lot of trouble with GhostBSD over the many times that I've tried to install it. I was hoping for greater things with this one because it actually managed to install and run under VirtualBox. So this is not an exhaustive review. I haven't delved into the inner workings and looked deep down into it. I've taken it as face value from what they are trying to achieve, and that's a user-friendly version of FreeBSD. And in some measures it does achieve its goal, but in others it doesn't, and the things that it doesn't do will put off potential users. GhostBSD is not a panacea for those who have a hard time with FreeBSD. It's not a panacea, it's not a cure-all for that. You know, you're not going to install GhostBSD and then it's, whoa, you know, FreeBSD, these are wonderful, FreeBSD systems are fantastic. No, it's not going to do that. It gives you the promise, but I think it's a promise unfulfilled. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.